What if I told you that the most overlooked health breakthrough for people over 60 isn't a new medication, a fancy supplement, or an expensive treatment, but a common white powder sitting quietly in your fridge, costing less than a cup of coffee? And what if I also told you that 99% of people have no idea how powerful it really is? For decades, we've used baking soda to freshen the fridge or clean the sink. But what's been hiding in plain sight is its extraordinary ability to support your health in ways modern medicine is only beginning to understand. I'm Dr. Mohit Khera. With over 30 years of experience helping older men restore their strength, vitality, and confidence, I've seen firsthand how the simplest solutions can make the biggest difference. My passion is helping people just like you live longer, healthier lives, without depending on risky or expensive interventions. You see, most people think of baking soda as a kitchen tool, but very few know it can reduce inflammation, calm painful joints, ease heartburn, protect your kidneys, freshen your breath, and even help you move with more energy. That's the part almost no one talks about. In this video, I'll reveal 7 science-backed benefits of baking soda that can dramatically improve your quality of life after 60, safely, naturally, and affordably. You'll learn how to use it, how often, and what to avoid so you can get the most out of it. And by the time we reach benefit number 5, you'll understand why I now recommend this to so many of my own patients. So let's begin. This could truly change the way you age. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Just tap that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip designed specifically for adults over 60. And if you find this video helpful, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0. Your feedback helps me create better, more meaningful content just for you. Let's start with the first and perhaps most immediately noticeable benefit, your oral health. If you've been struggling with mouth sores, gum irritation, or persistent bad breath, baking soda might offer a simple, natural solution that works faster and gentler than most store-bought products. Here's how it helps. 1. Oral health and bad breath relief. I'll never forget one of my patients. Let's call him Bill. He was 68, retired, and loved spending time with his grandkids, but every time he smiled, he did it with his lips tightly pressed together. When I asked why, he admitted he was embarrassed by his breath and the small but painful canker sores that kept coming back. He had tried every mouthwash on the shelf, minty ones, alcohol-based rinses, fancy ones from online ads, but nothing lasted. His dentist ruled out infection, and yet the discomfort kept showing up like an uninvited guest. That's when I suggested something surprisingly simple: baking soda. What most people don't realize is that the mouth is a delicate environment. As we age, changes in our saliva, diet, and even medications can make our mouths more acidic. That acidic shift becomes the perfect storm for bacterial overgrowth, leading to bad breath, irritated gums, and those frustrating canker sores that seem to come out of nowhere. Baking soda, sodium bicarbonate, is a natural alkaline compound. When used correctly, it helps neutralize that excess acid and restores a healthier balance in the mouth. And no, you don't have to brush your teeth with a gritty powder. A simple rinse made by dissolving half a teaspoon of baking soda in half a glass of warm water can make a world of difference. Swish it gently for 30 seconds, then spit it out. That's it. After about a week, Bill came back and said, "Doc, I finally feel comfortable talking face-to-face again." That stuck with me. It wasn't about curing a disease, it was about giving someone their confidence back. His grandkids noticed too. No more pulling away from hugs or covering his mouth when he laughed. Sometimes it's the little victories that matter most. Now, of course, I always remind my patients that baking soda is not a substitute for proper dental care. If you have chronic bad breath or recurring sores, there may be something deeper going on: a dental infection, dry mouth from medications, or digestive issues. But as a gentle, natural support tool, baking soda is a safe and affordable option that many seniors overlook. It's also worth noting that this is best used a couple of times a week, not every day. Our mouths have a natural balance for a reason, and overuse, even of something as harmless as baking soda, can disrupt that. But used wisely, This simple rinse can bring real relief, especially for older adults who may be more sensitive to commercial products with alcohol or artificial flavorings. There's something empowering about taking control of your health with tools you already have in your home. And when that tool helps you smile wider, speak more comfortably, and feel more like yourself again, that's more than hygiene, that's quality of life. But here's where things get even more interesting. What if I told you that same box of baking soda, the one helping your mouth feel fresher, could also soothe the skin on your arms, legs, and even bug bites that have been driving you crazy for days? Let's talk about the next unexpected benefit that could save you from a summer full of itching and discomfort. Keep watching. 2. Soothing skin irritations. Itch, bites, stings. When you get older, small things tend to affect you more deeply than they used to. A little bug bite that you would have ignored in your 30s now lingers for days, itching and swelling more than it should. I remember a woman named Joanne, 72 years old, who came into my office one summer with a red, angry patch on her forearm. "Doctor," she said, "this mosquito bite has been driving me up the wall. I can't sleep. I've tried every cream at the drugstore, and nothing works." She'd spent nearly $50 on sprays and ointments, none of which gave her more than a few minutes of relief. Sometimes, the most effective answer doesn't come in a fancy tube. I asked her, "Do you have any baking soda at home?" She looked at me puzzled. "For baking?" she asked. "For healing," I replied. You see, most people don't realize that many of the things that irritate our skin, bug bites, bee stings, mild rashes, are caused by acidic compounds entering the tissue. The venom or saliva from insects creates a reaction, and your body responds with inflammation, redness, and that maddening itch. Baking soda, being naturally alkaline, helps neutralize those acids. And when you apply it directly to the skin, it can bring soothing relief faster than you'd expect. I told Joanne to go home, mix 3 parts baking soda with 1 part water, and gently dab the paste onto her bite. Leave it on for about 15 minutes, then rinse. Nothing complicated, no prescription needed, just a kitchen remedy passed down through generations, but now backed by solid science. 2 days later, she called my office. "That paste worked better than anything else," she said, "and I actually slept through the night." It wasn't just about fixing the itch, it was about restoring peace of mind. That's what so many of us lose when these small discomforts build up. We think we're supposed to tough it out, that it's part of getting older, but it doesn't have to be. Now, I do want to be clear. This approach is only meant for minor skin irritations. If you have a rash that spreads, a bite that won't heal, or swelling that travels away from the bite area, you need to see a doctor immediately. But for everyday annoyances, mosquito bites, mild rashes, minor itches, baking soda is one of the safest and simplest ways to calm the skin. And there's something else too. As we age, our skin gets thinner and more sensitive. Many over-the-counter creams contain steroids or chemicals that can do more harm than good, especially with repeated use. Baking soda is gentle, affordable, and easy to test on a small area before using more broadly. I've had patients make it part of their summer routine, especially those who enjoy gardening, fishing, or just sitting outside with the grandkids. They keep a small container of the paste in the fridge, ready to apply whenever the bugs come out, and it works. It's a good reminder that nature gives us solutions. We just have to know where to look. And that box of baking soda sitting in your pantry, it may be the closest thing to a first aid kit you never knew you had. But here's something that surprises most of my patients even more. That same white powder that eases the sting on your skin, it can also calm the burning deep in your chest after a heavy meal. If you've ever felt the fire of heartburn or struggled with reflux, the next benefit could be a game changer. Keep listening. 3. Relief from heartburn and acid reflux. There's a certain kind of discomfort that only those over 60 truly understand. It sneaks in after a hearty dinner or a late-night snack. It rises slowly, like a small fire at the base of your chest, until suddenly it's burning its way up your throat. That's heartburn. And if you've lived with it, you know how frustrating and exhausting it can be. One of my longtime patients, George, 74, used to call it The fire that ruins my favorite meals. He had tried antacids, prescription medications, even sleeping upright in his recliner just to avoid the nighttime flare-ups. When I asked him how often it happened, he said, almost every day. That's when I knew we needed to go deeper. I explained that what he was dealing with was likely acid reflux, when stomach acid travels up the esophagus. It's incredibly common in older adults, partly because the muscles that keep acid where it belongs get weaker with age. But what's most surprising is how well something as simple as baking soda can bring quick, gentle relief when used properly. Sodium bicarbonate, the scientific name for baking soda, works by neutralizing excess stomach acid. It doesn't block production like prescription drugs. Instead, it balances out the acidity so that the burning sensation fades away. I recommended that George dissolve half a teaspoon of baking soda in a full glass of water and sip it slowly after a particularly acidic meal. He looked skeptical at first, but a few days later, he told me it worked better than any antacid he'd tried, without the dry mouth or constipation he got from pills. Now, I'm not saying baking soda is a replacement for long-term treatment, and I would never suggest using it every single day. But for occasional relief, when you've had just a little too much tomato sauce, or maybe indulged in a second helping of chili, it can be a lifesaver. It's fast, effective, and incredibly affordable. One important thing to keep in mind: baking soda contains sodium. That means it can raise your blood pressure if used in excess, especially if you already have hypertension or heart concerns. That's why I always tell my patients, use it sparingly, and always talk to your doctor if heartburn becomes a daily issue. Frequent reflux could be a sign of something more serious, like GERD, which needs professional care. Still, there's something empowering about having a natural option right in your kitchen. You don't have to suffer in silence or pop pills every night just to enjoy a good meal. You just need to understand how your body works and how to support it gently when it's out of balance. George eventually made other changes to his routine: smaller meals, eating earlier in the evening, cutting back on caffeine, and his symptoms improved dramatically, but he still keeps a small jar of baking soda in the cabinet, just in case. It's like my fire extinguisher, he jokes. And honestly, for people in their golden years, having a little control over your comfort can make all the difference. Now, if you think neutralizing acid in your stomach is impressive, wait until you hear what baking soda can do for your muscles. Especially if you've noticed your energy dipping or your legs getting tired faster during walks. What comes next might surprise you even more. Let's keep going. 4. Boosting energy and muscle endurance. One of the most common things I hear from my older patients, men and women alike, is this: "Doctor, I just don't have the energy I used to. Even walking up a flight of stairs wears me out." And they're not imagining it. As we get older, our muscles tire faster, recover more slowly, and the physical activities that once felt easy begin to feel like work. I remember one gentleman in particular. His name was Henry. At 70, he still loved working in his garden, but lately he'd been cutting his sessions short. "I start strong," he told me, "but after about 20 minutes, my legs feel like cement." When I asked him about his routine, I noticed something interesting. He wasn't overdoing it. He was pacing himself. But the fatigue was setting in too fast, almost like his muscles were giving up before his will did. That's when I explained a hidden part of the aging process most people don't know about: the buildup of lactic acid in our muscles. Lactic acid is what makes your muscles feel that familiar burn when you exercise. It's a natural byproduct of activity, especially during anything even slightly strenuous. But in older adults, it can build up more quickly and linger longer. That burning sensation forces you to stop, rest, and sometimes not return to the activity at all. This is where baking soda becomes surprisingly helpful. Sodium bicarbonate works as a buffer. It helps neutralize that lactic acid, allowing your muscles to keep going just a little bit longer before fatigue sets in. I told Henry he could try mixing a small amount, just a quarter teaspoon, in a large glass of water about an hour before he planned to be active. Nothing too intense. No supplements, no stimulants, just a slow, steady way to help his muscles handle more. He was skeptical, of course. Most people are when I tell them a box of baking soda might support their stamina. But a few weeks later, he came back and said, I don't know how, but I'm lasting longer out there. I'm finishing what I start again. That one sentence meant more than he realized, because it wasn't just about gardening. It was about confidence, about feeling strong in your own body again. Now, let me be clear, this isn't meant for running marathons or heavy lifting, and it's certainly not a miracle cure. Some people may feel a little stomach discomfort, so I always recommend starting small and seeing how your body responds. And of course, hydration is key. Baking soda works best when your body has enough water to process it safely. But when used wisely, this little white powder can help you push through that mid-activity slump. It can give you just enough edge to finish your walk, climb those stairs, or enjoy a longer day outdoors with your grandkids. And the feeling of crossing that invisible line, of not giving up early, can be deeply rewarding. It's amazing what we can do with a little support and the right mindset. And baking soda, simple as it seems, can be one of those quiet helpers along the way. Now, while helping your muscles stay strong is important, there's something else that affects even more of your daily life, something you may feel in your knees, your fingers, or even your lower back. I'm talking about inflammation and joint pain. And if you've been struggling with stiffness or swelling, the next benefit might just open a new door to comfort. Let's explore it together. 5. Reducing joint inflammation and pain. If you're over 60, chances are you've felt it. That deep, dull ache in your knees when the weather shifts, the stiffness in your fingers first thing in the morning, or that slow-burning tension in your lower back after standing too long. It's not just getting older, and it's not something you have to silently accept. Inflammation is the real culprit behind so much of the pain we associate with aging. And while anti-inflammatory medications can help, they come with risks, especially when taken long-term. That's why I started looking into gentler, more natural ways to support my patients, and I kept coming back to something surprisingly simple: baking soda. I had a patient named Walter, 67 years old, who had been living with joint pain for years. He loved woodworking, but the swelling in his hands made it harder and harder to hold his tools. He didn't like taking pain meds because they upset his stomach. During one visit, I brought up a study that caught my attention. It showed that drinking a small dose of baking soda could actually signal the immune system to calm down, shifting it from a pro-inflammatory state to an anti-inflammatory one. It's almost like whispering to your body, "You don't need to fight so hard." Walter was skeptical, but he trusted me enough to try. I told him to dissolve half a teaspoon of baking soda in a glass of water and drink it once a day, on an empty stomach, just for a few days to see how he felt. 2 weeks later, he returned with a light in his eyes I hadn't seen in a while. "It's not gone," he said, "but it's different. The swelling isn't as bad, and I can move more freely. I even carved a frame last weekend." That moment reminded me why I became a doctor, not just to reduce pain, but to help people reclaim parts of their lives that pain had taken away. The science behind this is fascinating. Baking soda appears to affect certain immune cells called macrophages, telling them to shift gears from promoting inflammation to supporting healing. It's not a cure for arthritis, but it's a promising tool that may help reduce the intensity of flare-ups or daily discomfort when used wisely. That said, it's incredibly important to approach this with care. Baking soda contains sodium, which means it can affect your blood pressure if used regularly. If you have hypertension, heart disease, or kidney problems, you must talk to your doctor before trying this. It's also not something to take indefinitely. Think of it as a short-term support strategy to help your body reset. For Walter, that small daily habit became a way to feel more in control of his body. And for many of my patients, it's one of those "why didn't I know this sooner" discoveries. You might not notice a dramatic change overnight, but over time, that gentle nudge away from inflammation can mean more flexibility, less pain, and more of the freedom you deserve. And speaking of freedom, there's one system in your body that often works silently in the background, but when it starts to slow down, the impact can be life-changing. I'm talking about your kidneys. They do more than you think, and the next benefit of baking soda might just surprise you with how deeply it connects to your overall health. Keep watching. 6. Supporting kidney function. When I sit across from older patients and we talk about their health, There's one organ that hardly ever gets mentioned unless it's already failing: the kidneys. They work in silence, filtering your blood, balancing your pH, removing waste. But as the years pass, especially if you have high blood pressure or diabetes, those hardworking kidneys can quietly begin to struggle. I've seen it happen too many times: fatigue, swelling in the ankles, lab tests that slowly shift out of range. It's a silent decline, and once it starts, the road back is steep. A few years ago, I was working with a patient named Evelyn. She was 73, vibrant, sharp, and fiercely independent. She came in for a routine checkup, but her blood work told a different story. Her kidney function was declining. Not fast, but enough to worry. She hadn't felt any symptoms yet, but I could see it in the numbers. That's when we had the conversation about metabolic acidosis, a condition where the body becomes too acidic because the kidneys can't remove waste efficiently. What many people don't realize is that this buildup of acid can accelerate kidney damage even further, creating a dangerous cycle. Here's where baking soda enters the picture, not as a miracle, but as a powerful support. Clinical studies have shown that sodium bicarbonate, when used carefully, can help neutralize that excess acid. It brings the body's pH closer to normal and, in doing so, may help slow the progression of kidney disease. It's not folklore, it's real, documented science. In some studies, patients who took small daily doses of baking soda under medical supervision saw their kidney function stabilize. In a few cases, it even improved slightly. When I explained this to Evelyn, she was open but cautious. I made it absolutely clear this is not something you do on your own. Managing kidney health with baking soda requires close monitoring of sodium levels, blood pressure, and kidney markers. So we developed a plan, working closely with her nephrologist. We started her on a very low dose, checking her labs every few weeks. And over the next 6 months, her numbers held steady. No sharp declines, no alarming spikes, just quiet, stable function. What struck me most was how empowered she felt. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't just waiting for her next test results. She was participating in her healing. And that's what this is really about. It's not about replacing your medications or skipping your appointments. It's about understanding that something as simple as a teaspoon of baking soda, used carefully, under guidance, might offer another layer of protection when your body needs it most. Now, I need to be crystal clear here. This is not advice to self-treat kidney disease. If you're watching this and you've been diagnosed with chronic kidney issues, do not start baking soda therapy without speaking to your doctor. This is a powerful tool, but in the wrong hands or wrong situation, it can do more harm than good. It must be used with wisdom and medical oversight. Still, it's a powerful reminder that aging doesn't have to mean helplessness. Your body still listens, it still responds, and with the right care, even silent organs like the kidneys can be supported and protected. And while your kidneys quietly work behind the scenes, there's something else happening on the surface, something many of my patients find surprising. It has to do with odor, confidence, and a very natural, very personal issue most people don't want to talk about. But I think you'll want to hear what baking soda can do about it. Let's keep going. 7. A natural, aluminum-free deodorant. There are some things we just don't talk about as we get older, even though we all deal with them. Body odor is one of them. It doesn't matter how clean you are, how often you shower, or how well you eat. Aging skin, hormonal shifts, and medications can all change the way we smell. I had a patient once, a 66-year-old man named Robert, who pulled me aside after his appointment and said, "Doc, I'm embarrassed to even ask this, but is there anything natural I can use instead of deodorant? Everything I buy irritates my skin." And he wasn't alone. I've had dozens of patients, especially older men and women with sensitive skin, ask the same question over the years. Here's the issue. Most commercial deodorants contain aluminum compounds, synthetic fragrances, and preservatives that can irritate aging skin. Some people break out in rashes. Others just don't feel comfortable putting so many chemicals under their arms every day. And when I bring up baking soda as a simple, natural alternative, their reactions are always the same: surprise, followed by relief. Baking soda works on 2 levels. First, It neutralizes the acidic byproducts that bacteria create when they break down sweat. That's actually what causes body odor, not the sweat itself, but what happens when bacteria feed on it. Second, baking soda has mild antibacterial properties, so it helps reduce the number of odor-causing bacteria on your skin in the first place. I remember walking Robert through the process. I told him to take a pinch of baking soda, just a little, and mix it with a few drops of water or even a touch of coconut oil. Apply it gently under the arms, just enough to coat the skin, not to cake it on. He tried it that same week. A few days later, he emailed me saying, "I'm not sure why no one talks about this. It works better than the store stuff, and my skin hasn't broken out once." Of course, I always tell my patients to test it first on a small patch of skin. Some people, especially those with very sensitive skin, may find baking soda too alkaline and slightly irritating. If that happens, you can adjust the mixture, add more coconut oil, or apply it less frequently. And just like anything else, it's not for everyone, but for many people, it's a clean, chemical-free solution that offers both comfort and confidence. And confidence is everything. When you feel clean, you carry yourself differently. You're more willing to go out, be social, hug your grandkids, take that walk with your spouse. You're not worrying about whether someone might notice something you're trying to hide, and that matters more than most people realize. It's often the simplest things that have the most impact, not just on our health, but on our dignity, our sense of self, and our everyday lives. A pinch of white powder that freshens your breath, calms your joints, soothes your skin, and now even replaces chemical deodorants? That's not just impressive, it's empowering. But there's one final thought I want to leave you with. Because while baking soda is an incredible tool, it's not about the powder itself. It's about what it represents: taking control, finding relief, and aging with wisdom, not fear. In the final moments of this video, I want to leave you with a few important reminders that could shape the way you see your health from this moment forward. Let's wrap it all together. Conclusion. It's amazing when you stop and think about it, that a single, ordinary box of baking soda could carry so much potential. Not just as something to keep your fridge fresh or help with baking, but as a quiet companion in your journey toward feeling better, aging with grace, and reclaiming parts of your health you may have thought were already slipping away. We've talked about 7 surprising ways this humble powder can support you, especially if you're over 60. We started with oral health, how a simple rinse can ease mouth sores and freshen your breath, bringing back comfort and confidence in your smile. Then we moved to the skin, where baking soda's alkaline nature can calm the itch and sting of everyday irritations. I still think of Joanne and how just one small change gave her her nights back. Then we stepped into the world of digestion, where that fiery discomfort we know as heartburn can sometimes be quieted with a bit of baking soda and water. I'll never forget George calling it his fire extinguisher. And then came something many don't expect: its role in muscle endurance. For folks like Henry, who want to stay active just a little longer, that gentle buffering of lactic acid can mean the difference between giving up early or finishing strong. Joint pain was next, and for so many, that's the battle that defines the later years of life. Walter's story reminded me how deeply inflammation affects not just the body, but the spirit. That quiet shift toward less swelling, less stiffness, can be enough to make someone feel like themselves again. And then there's the kidneys, those silent, tireless organs working day and night. Evelyn's journey with baking soda, taken carefully and under guidance, showed us that even something as quiet as a chemical buffer can support your system in powerful ways. Finally, we ended with something very personal: odor. It's the little things, like feeling fresh and clean, that often go unnoticed until they become a problem. Robert found his answer not in a drugstore aisle, but in a simple homemade paste. And with it, he found comfort, relief, and dignity. What ties all of these stories together isn't just the baking soda, it's what it represents: choice. It's about remembering that you are not powerless, that aging isn't just a slow surrender to discomfort and dependence. There are tools, many of them simple, safe, and already within reach, that can help you live with more comfort, confidence, and control. But let me be very clear: baking soda is not a cure-all. It's not a replacement for the advice and care of your doctor. It's a supportive tool, and like all tools, it must be used wisely, with respect. The right dose, the right timing, and the right understanding make all the difference. I've spent my career helping people navigate the challenges of aging, not just with science, but with heart. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. The smallest daily choices often have the biggest long-term impact. A little scoop of powder, stirred into water, applied to the skin, or swished in the mouth. These are not miracles, but they are meaningful. So the next time you open your pantry and see that familiar orange box, I hope you see more than just a household staple. I hope you see potential. Possibility. A quiet kind of power that's been there all along, just waiting to help. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video helped you, share it with someone you care about, because the more we understand these hidden tools, the better we can age, not just with years, but with strength, clarity, and a little more peace.